Right. For most of us who have an income, there is, of course, great concern as to how to minimize the impact on one's wallet with regard to not only personal costs, but also associated financial concerns related to this coronavirus. And joining us now is John Manyike, who is the head of financial education at Old Mutual. John, good morning. Thanks for speaking to us once again.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
Now, John, let's begin with an overview of household finances in the time of corona. Please just give our viewers some insight about the importance of not overreacting or panicking or making panic purchases or any additional or hasty financial decisions at this time.
Yeah, the retail sector has given us the assurance that the supply value chain system is very robust and very resilient. And the relationship between the retailers and their suppliers is intact. So they don't anticipate any risk of running out of stock. I mean, if anything at all, it might be perhaps a delay in replenishing the stock. But I think they're more prepared now than before, because now that they've observed the trends that, people are buying in panic. So people need to be calm. There's no need to panic. There's enough food for everyone. But also, more importantly, people should not find themselves in a situation where they're starting to borrow money or even using their credit card to actually buy food, because in the long term, that's going to come back to harm our pockets. So it's very important to consider that. I think the other most important thing as well, especially for parents with children at home, given the fact that we've had an early recess, and they're going to be home a bit longer, it means food consumption is going to be at its highest. So we need to start cultivating a culture of responsible consumption of scarce resources such as food, water, and electricity. So no more throwing away of food if there are leftovers. We put them in the fridge and we continue from where we left off. Those are the kind of things that we need to be looking at. But of course, give some our children, work to do, homework, but find games that you can do with them, keep them occupied and entertained during the time. And then one other important thing is that for those who know that they are hardest hit, especially whose sectors are hardest hit, and they know that their income is going to be affected hugely because of the rule of no work, no pay, or because maybe the employer is just not getting enough income to be able to afford paying salaries. It's very important to be proactive. Speak to your credit provider. Don't wait for them to knock on your door. I know that there are a number of banks who've made offers to their customers to give them a payment break. To give them a payment break. But even that, still, you need to assess the situation. Do you actually need it? Or is it something that you can just wave off and focus on surviving the lockdown for the 21 days?
And of course, there will be many such temptation. You say we should be mindful of the impact of this early and prolonged closure of schools and these kids eating us out of house and home at the moment. So some parents may be tempted to go and take out a loan to get more food into the household. John?
Yeah, so that's the challenge, So, and very often I get asked the question, what happens if there's a lockdown? I mean, I think let's go back to the spirit of Ubuntu, be neighborly. If you're running out of salt, go to your neighbor, but, and vice versa. I think if you look at the solidarity amongst political parties, the non-partisan approach, you're seeing that even across countries, other countries deploying their doctors, medicine and other expertise. Even with us, we need to be neighborly. We need to understand that it's the human species that's, under attack. But more importantly, we need to keep hope alive. And I also like the approach of government in engaging different stakeholders, because to combat the virus, it is not the sole responsibility of government. Business, civil society, including religious groups, need to play their part, especially dealing with the psychological as well as the spiritual aspect of a human being. Because when people are panicking, we end up making irrational decisions.
And of course, we talk about the most obvious and the most basic needs that stare us in the face, but there are things like insurance policies that also still need to be serviced at a point like this and that could lapse, John?
No, absolutely. And that's why it's important to speak to your financial institution or your financial advisor to find out if you have a premium holiday on your policies, because there are policies that already have that feature. But if not, I mean, you have to find ways to try and stay focused, take a long-term view. It is not a time to disinvest for those who are saving now. If anything at all, I mean, if you are one of the lucky ones who have a payment break, you need to consider what to do with that money. I mean, can you imagine if somebody takes on 15,000 in a month and they're being given 3 months payment break? If you're sitting with cash, 45,000 over 3 months without a plan, that might actually come back to haunt you at a later stage. But even those offers, we actually need to interrogate, what does it mean? Does it mean I'm going to be paying a higher interest after the 3 months period? Is it going to be recalculated? Or does it mean by virtue of the term being extended, does it mean that the interest that's going to be charged there is going to be unaffordable, or the installments being unaffordable? So we need to understand the implications of actually taking that offer, and only take it if you need it. If you do take it and you don't have a need for it, rather start your own emergency fund, and you never know when you would need it. And if you find after 3 months, if you review the situation and you feel you don't need it, you can always put it back so that you try and cover up on the lost time.
And just a final one, seeing that we won't be driving because we'll be under lockdown, what about short-term insurance? Should we be getting a break there?
Well, I think it all depends on your insurer. I mean, if your insurer is offering you a payment break, but then you must understand, as long as your cover remains intact. So you would expect with less travel, a lot of cars will be parked, but there would be a bit of a saving in terms of fuel, because obviously we would have a budget for fuel, for the month. Even that saving, have a plan on what are you going to be using that money for.
Well, thanks so much. So much to think about. And John Manyike there is the head of financial education at Old Mutual, assisting us in looking at some of what the coronavirus impact will be on our wallets. And we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and take a quick look at some of your tweets.